Hi there, I am Kate Petty. I am LG CreateBoard Specialist and Trainer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 settings we would suggest IT admin make decisions about before and while they're getting the boards set up and ready for the teachers. Now, 2 of those settings are going to be in the Android settings part of the board. Very easy to get to, but they are in the administrator section, which does require the passcode. The next 3 settings are actually going to be in the debug menu of the board, and you will need a remote control to be able to access those. So without further ado, let's take a look at those 5 settings. All right, so we're going to take a look at the first 2 settings we would suggest IT admin make to boards are actually on the board settings themselves. The other 3 settings are going to be in the debug menu. So let's just take a look at the 2 settings that are in the settings option on the boards themselves. I go to my waffle and I scroll down to settings. You'll see that there is, if you scroll down, an administrator setting. And this is something that is password protected, so teachers can't really access it on their own. You got to put in the code. And I would suggest 2 settings in this particular arena. The first one is multi-window mode. All of the videos, the training videos that we're going to be sharing with teachers will be in multi-window mode. If you don't have this set as on, then they may not have the same options, or the things that we do in our training videos may look a little different to them. So multi-window mode on is really going to be helpful for them as they're learning their boards and they're using our training videos. The second thing that I would suggest that you do, especially if your teachers will be using a second input, for instance, a doc cam, or maybe you've got an OPS on a slot in on the side, or maybe they're plugged in, like hardwired, plugged into their own device, their own computer. What I would suggest happens for ease of use is to set up what startup channel. So when they turn on the board, where do you want them to go first? And this is definitely an organization preference. For instance, if all of your teachers are wired into the board and are never going to use the Android part of it, I would suggest that startup channel be that input, that HDMI or that USB-C. But if the teachers are going to be using the Android part of the board and inputs and document cams and all sorts of things, my strong suggestion would be to have that startup channel at the top be on Android. So every time they turn on the board, it'll always just go right to the Android screen, and the teachers from there will have their own system and their own routine to get to all of the different inputs that they have. So those are the 2 suggestions that are in settings on the board itself. The next 3 settings we're going to be taking a look at are in the debug menu, and so let's take a look at those. Okay, so these next 3 settings are in the debug menu. And to get there, I went to input 1379 on the remote. And again, you don't want to share that particular code with a lot of people, maybe just your IT people. There is a lot of damage that can be done in the debug menu. But there are 3 things that we would suggest you take a look at and change if you would prefer to do this, take our suggestions or not. We're looking at 1 in machine setting and 2 in system settings. So I'm going to go down here to machine setting, and I'm going to go down to HDMI out. What this will allow you to do, it's going to be defaulted off, and what this is going to allow you to do if you open it is to daisy chain the boards to different displays. So as long as HDMI out is open, these boards can be daisy chained to each other or to 2 different displays. Okay, the other 2 settings are going to be in system settings, and they're down here at the bottom. The first one is HDCP contents capture. This is default at off. Legally, the system or the entities are worried about plagiarism, copyright infringement, and things like that. But if you open it up, your teachers will be able to annotate over their, over everything, and not have any problems when they want to use annotate and the annotate feature and other contents capture features. So if you're not worried about copyright because your teachers are responsible or whatever it is for your organization, I would consider putting this on open. The other one is unknown sources. This is where it's going to allow you to add apps from unknown sources. Sometimes apps don't have their certifications and things, and it's a safe app and you want to push it out. It won't let you unless you've got this unknown sources open. So those are the 5 things we would suggest you take a look at. On the Android settings board, system settings, you want to go to administrator, and you want to change one, the landing. So every time your teachers turn the device off, what is the input that they're going to return to when they turn the device on? That's just routine and consistency that help teachers out a lot. That second one was multi-windows. You just want to make sure that multi-windows is open, because that is the view that we're going to be doing for a lot of our trainings. The last 3 are in the debug menu. You're going to go to machine settings and go to HDMI out and open that. And then if you choose, you're going to want to go to system settings and debug menu to HDCP contents capture and open it. And then also open unknown sources for uploading and installing and downloading apps. And that is it for the top 5 settings we would suggest IT admin take a look at when installing and getting the boards ready for teachers. Okay, so those are the top 5 settings we would suggest an IT admin make as they are getting the boards ready for the teachers for the first time. Those first 2 were in the settings options for the Android board itself. Under administrator, just make sure multi-window tasking is on so that their experience as they're watching our training videos is going to be the same experience that they see in the video. The second thing would be to create a landing spot for the teachers. Every time they turn their boards on, it's always going to show up on the same input, the same screen. Whether that's Android or your OPS or whichever one that your organization decides, that gives them a routine, and they can select the input after that if they need to adjust that for any reason. So the other 3 settings were in the debug menu. You can get there by getting on the remote and pushing input 1379. The first one was in machine settings. If you go down a little bit, you'll see the HDMI out. If you open that up, you'll be able to daisy chain the board to other boards and other displays. Now, if you go back out and go to system settings, there's 2 settings in there we'd take a look at. One is that HDCP content capture, and that one will allow teachers to be able to write over and use anything from the internet that they need to for their lessons. The second one is the apps, the unknown source apps. So as long as that's open, you'll be able to push any apps out you want, whether or not they're trusted or not, even though you may know that they're trusted. So those are your top 5 settings that we would suggest you take a look at and make some decisions on. And we welcome all your input, so let us know if you have any questions.